Hello, welcome to Tech Digest for January 12th. Kickstarting today's digest, Anthropic dropped a research review that's getting a lot of attention. It's called Cowork. So if you use their artifacts feature, it feels like the next logical step. It's essentially a agentic workflow integrated directly into Claude interface. It's designed to handle complex, multi-step technical tasks. Think of it as a pair programmer that can actually navigate the project context better. It's aiming to move beyond just chatting with code to actually managing the work. Given the buzz around autonomous agents lately, seeing the major player like this ship a dedicated UI is a big signal of where our dev environments are heading. And of course, VS Code has planning mode. Amazon has their planning mode baked into their AI editor. So they are catching up here a little bit. Next, on the AI front, also, Apple. So, the ecosystem shift that we have all been waiting for. Honestly, Apple has officially finally said that they're tapping Google Gemini to be the new engine behind Siri. So for years, Siri lagged behind in the LLM race, and instead of building proprietary foundational model from scratch for everything, they're leveraging Gemini for those complex queries. So for mobile developers, it's also huge because it suggests that we might finally get consistent high intelligence voice interface on on iOS without needing third-party wrappers. And it's interesting to see how they will handle the privacy handoff between, on-device processing and the Google Cloud. Originally, the rumor was that they would run Google's model on their own hardware, so we'll see that how that actually pans out. Um, on the security front, this is sobering reminder about dev environment hygiene. So, Target had to pull the developer server offline after a hacking group claimed to have exfiltrated the source code. So this isn't just the customer data; it's actual like blueprints for the internal tools and platforms in the source code. It highlights a common weak point. We often lock down the production tied, but leave development servers less monitored or exposed with weaker credentials. So if you're in DevOps or SecOps, this is another cue to go and audit who has access to the staging environments and dev environments. Um, On to JavaScript. So if you have ever written JavaScript, of course you have struggled with the data object. It's famously broken in the back. So it's finally the long nightmare is ending. In this new article called "Date is Out, Temporal is In." It's making rounds and it's highly voted, celebrating arrival of the Temporal API in the standards. So this is modern, immutable, time zone aware daytime API that we all deserved for decades, honestly, since JavaScript started. It handles durations, time zones finally, and parsing of the dates without needing libraries like Moment.js or DataFNS. So if you start a new project this year, just pretend new date doesn't exist and embrace temporal. Um, for systems engineers out there, Nikita Popov released a fantastic deep dive titled LLVM, The Bad Parts. So LLVM, not to be confused with LLM. LLVM is a backbone for many languages, Rust, Swift, and Clang, for example. Um, but it is not perfect. This article critiques some of the legacy decisions in the LLVM's intermediate representation and path manager, and they make modern compiler development harder than it needs to be. So it's not a hit piece, this article. It's technical analysis of technical debt in one of the most important pieces of software world. So if you're into compilers or low-level optimization, this is a must-read. Um, Fabrice Bellard. So he's at it again. He is a genius behind the QEMU and FFmpeg and QuickJS, and he released this TS-Zip. So it's a compression tool based on LLMs, specifically using transformer models to achieve higher compression ratios than traditional algorithms. And while it currently is more of a proof of concept due to the compute required to compress and decompress, anything Ballard touches usually signals where the field is going. It's a fascinating look into how arithmetic coding combined with next token prediction can shrink files in a ways that Deflate never could. And there's a lot of cool comments here on the Y Combinator about this. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about Rust. Well, we could, but this is a Zig moment. So it's having major moment in the browser text specifically. So the team at Light Panda just published a retrospective on migrating their DOM implementation to Zig. So they're building a headless browser, and they needed raw performance and predictable memory layout without the overhead of the garbage collector. So they detail why Zig's comp-time features and C and interop make it better fit for them than C++ or Rust for this specific layer. That's a great case study if you're considering Zig for high-performance systems computing. On to CI/CD. So usually debugging CI/CD is a nightmare because you have to commit, push, and if something fails, you repeat. So 50 commits later, maybe you have it working. So this is a guide into how to launch debugging terminals inside GitHub Actions. So it breaks down how to use tools like Teammate to get interactive SSH session right inside the runner when the job fails. So instead of guessing why the build broke, you can jump in and then poke around in the file system, run the commands live, like basically in the way that the environment was set up, etc. So if you're tired of waiting for 10 minutes to see if one-liner fix works, this is a massive productivity booster, and something that people who heavily rely on GitHub Actions have already been doing. But this is a nice guide for you to get on board here. Honestly, not every time it fails you want to do this, but for complex cases that do end up being tens of commits, might be useful. Okay, back to AI. So this, speaks for itself. So it's a really creative experiment in AI constraints. So it's called Time Capsule LLM, and it's exactly what it sounds. Yeah, so it's a language model trained exclusively on data from 1800 to 1875. So there's no internet slang, no modern concepts, just 19th century literature and history. So why did they do this? It's a fascinating control group for understanding model bias and language evolution. So if you ask it about electricity, you get very different answer than GPT-4 gives you. So it's open source here on GitHub. If you want to go and travel back in time. Yeah, there's the data sets, and yeah, pretty cool. So, finally, to close this out, it's a bit of delightful hacking. This developer turned the stack of old 3.5-inch floppy disks into physical interface for his kids to control the TV. So each disk has a RFID tag, and you pop the disk into this custom reader, um, and it plays specific show or a movie. It's like tactile, it's durable, it's a great way to reuse obsolete media. It's a reminder that sometimes the best smart home interface isn't the touch screen, but it's like a chunky piece of plastic that makes satisfying click. Cool. I'll see you tomorrow.